When we think of ancient Rome, we usually picture marble columns, Stoic philosophers, and grand political debates. But that is the end of the story. The actual beginning is significantly weirder. According to legend, the city was founded in 753 BC by two abandoned twin boys, Romulus and Remus, who survived in the wild by nursing from a she-wolf. When they reached adulthood, they couldn't agree on which of them should be the king, so Romulus murdered his own brother with a shovel to settle the dispute. Rome's very first act as a city was an act of fratricide, establishing a foundation where the hunger for absolute power outweighed even the closest blood ties. Those early centuries were defined by localized brutality. At one point, the Romans invited their neighbors to a feast, only to kidnap all of their women to forcibly populate the new city. Following Romulus, Rome was ruled by a succession of monarchs. Over time, these kings centralized their control, moving away from civic leadership toward oppressive, localized tyranny. Eventually, the Roman people reached a breaking point. They rose up and successfully overthrew the monarchy to end the centralized abuse of power. With the kings gone, the newly liberated citizens faced a massive structural problem. They needed a functional government engineered specifically to ensure no single man could ever hold absolute authority again. The Romans built their republic as a specialized institutional patch, a system designed to prioritize the prevention of kings over almost every other civic function. To prevent a return to dictatorship, they split the top office in half. Instead of one supreme ruler, Rome elected two co-leaders called consuls, who were forced to share power. Then they added a strict, non-negotiable term limit. A consul could only stay in office for exactly 1 year before a new election forced them to step down. These rules successfully engineered absolute power out of the system. However, by capping the time at the top, the Romans inadvertently created a high-pressure vacuum in their own society. Ancient Roman politicians were driven by a cultural obsession called dignitas. They spent their entire lives clawing for personal prestige, glory, and a legacy that would outlive them. This created an immediate psychological conflict. A consul possessed an overwhelming desire for lifelong glory, but only had a ticking clock of 12 months to achieve it. Slow, methodical governing tasks, like fixing roads or negotiating complex treaties, did nothing to secure a massive legacy within such a narrow window. The system forced its leaders into a corner. For an ambitious consul, the only guaranteed method to achieve maximum personal glory before their term expired was to initiate an immediate military conquest. This setup turned Roman politicians into hyper-aggressive instigators, desperate to spark a conflict while they still held the keys to the legions. The transition to a republic did not bring stability. It triggered a surge in continuous warfare. The Roman military began a relentless outward spread across the Italian peninsula. In a violent sprint, they absorbed the Latin League, crushed the Samnites, and conquered the Etruscans. Because the Republic swapped in two fresh, glory-starved consuls every single year, the war machine could never naturally power down. This explosive territorial expansion functioned as the accidental byproduct of internal political paranoia, creating a state that expanded because its leaders feared standing still. By the 3rd century BC, this heavily armed regional power had suddenly run out of Italian land to conquer. To feed the political engine of glory, Roman leaders were forced to look across the water. They found themselves staring at Carthage, a wealthy, established superpower that already controlled the Western Mediterranean. The two civilizations were opposites. Rome was a land-based farming society fueled by violent political ambition, while Carthage was a sea-based trading network built on mercantile wealth. The Republic's internal anti-tyranny machine was incapable of slowing down, placing these two civilizations on a direct path toward a catastrophic war for the Mediterranean.